All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Tuesday. By the way, if you're not able to listen to us live on the radio or you want to stream us live, well, guess what? We're going live streaming on YouTube right now. You get to see my ugly mug every day. I know that's what you all want to see.
JD, I'm catching the glare from Mr. Shapiro's head. Kind of bounces off over here and get a little.
JD, how do
I'm
people?
seeing that too.
JD, how do people find us?
All I can see is a 6'10" Stretch Sanders looming to my left right now.
He's coming up next in a few minutes. But JD, I want you to tell people how they can find us streaming live on YouTube.
You go to
now.
YouTube, type in the Vegas Take. Click on the link, go to it, and it'll say the Vegas Take live stream. That's what it'll say from now. But moving forward, it'll be an actual preview of who's on the show and what guests we have, et cetera. But right now, go to YouTube, Vegas Take live stream, click on it, and you'll see us.
Cool. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about this Getty Fire. Seems to be getting worse and worse. And then even somebody, when LeBron James is tweeting about it, people seem to definitely pay attention. Sadly, it takes that. But LeBron was having an issue with finding a place for his family to stay last night. That's how bad this Getty Fire is. So the man joining us on the line right now, former news anchor and reporter here at KDWN, now out there at KNX Radio in L.A., Brian Ping. Brian, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Brian. JD, good to be back with you.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
What's up, Brian?
So talk to me about how serious this Getty Fire actually is. You've been covering it nonstop since the beginning. What is the update you can give us on what's going on out there?
We've got 8 homes destroyed, a few more damaged. Right now, the fire is fortunately settling down about 600 acres because the winds have cooperated. These are really fueled by these, what we call the offshore winds, the Santa Anas, when they come down from the desert, very dry. And when they come at you about 20, 30 miles an hour, it really does fan those flames. Fortunately, yesterday afternoon and evening or so, they settled down. They're going to ramp back up again late tonight, and they're going to last about a day and a half. So everybody who was evacuated from that zone has been ordered to stay away, and they're going to have to stay out of their homes for probably a couple of days. They can't come back at least tonight because these city officials are worried that the winds are really going to make this fire worse. So they're using today to lay down containment lines and get as much of a head start as they can before this gets really bad.
Wow. What can you tell us about, what do you make of, I guess, LeBron James' comments last night? This is a man that's arguably one of the most famous athlete on the planet. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's tweeting last night that he had plenty of issues trying to get his family to a safe place. What do you make of that?
Well, you mentioned there right off the top that maybe it is a LeBron James tweet that actually gets people outside of Southern California to pay attention to what's going on here. The fortunate thing is that there have been no reports of any injuries, deaths, anything like that. But, yeah, a lot of people who live in this, it's a ritzy area there around Brentwood up in the Hollywood Hills. They're having to scramble. They're having to make some alternate plans, and they're not going to be allowed to go home. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how nice a place you have. I mean, when the authorities say you got to go, you got to go.
Brian, can you describe where these fires are exactly? Is it right off of the 405 in the middle of the city? And how is it impacting the commute?
Well, the commute's an absolute nightmare because the 405 is one of the big bottlenecks of Southern California. For anyone who's familiar with the layout of the region, the 405 goes to a mountain pass that kind of cuts through 2 very busy parts of the city. There's the west side, which is Santa Monica, Hollywood, Beverly Hills. And then on the north side is the San Fernando Valley, where a lot of people commute home. You have Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks, and then further north into Ventura County, Santa Clarita. So it's a really busy point for people going back and forth. And these are people who are subjected to nightmarish scenes of hills on fire when they were driving early in the morning yesterday. Fortunately, that's got a bit under control, but goodness knows what we're going to face over these next couple of days when we're facing up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts in that area. This could be all over again, nightmare conditions, perhaps even worse. And, yeah, that is one of the worst places you could possibly have a fire as far as the commute goes because it is such an important route.
Brian, of course, with natural disasters like this, the focus is going to be on the fire and what's actually taking place there. But what's the situation regarding some of the outliers as well as like electricity, for example? Obviously, millions of people are at risk when, things like that go down. What's the situation with the grid there in Southern California and how that could affect people?
Yeah, that's a really important point because, we've been dealing just as they have in the north, although not as to an extreme degree, about the preemptive shutoffs that are causing a lot of controversy. And as you may have heard up north, they're still having some fires that are sparked by power lines despite millions of people going in the dark. So that's definitely something to watch more. The down transmission lines, if they spark, that is usually a main culprit of a lot of the fires that could happen, not just in the Getty Fire, which so far we don't know the cause, but in a lot of other places all over the state, because the way the infrastructure is, I'll be honest, it's not ideal for having to deal with all this. And Governor Newsom called him out a couple of weeks ago. He said, look, you were cheap. You didn't invest the money you needed to do to make this an up-to-date system, and we're paying the price for it now.
Very important question here. Brian, who has a better voice, you or Morgan Freeman?
That's very easy. I'm going to go with Morgan Freeman on that one.
All right, we'll go back to the actual fire. Can you talk a little bit about the evacuations? How many people are affected here, and how long will they be out of their homes for? I know that's a tough estimation for you to answer, but what can you tell us?
Well, what I can tell you based on what we know is that the red flag warning, which means right fire conditions, that lasts until 6 o'clock on Thursday. So we're just going to have to see how the fires are. I mean, the winds are going to continue to trend offshore, meaning dry, all the way through the weekend. So we're not going to get much help because you need the humidity from the sea breeze to really help even after the winds are gone. So this could be multiple days. I'm guessing if you're out of your home right now under that mandatory evacuation order, it won't be until at least Thursday night, if not later, that you'll be able to go home.
Wow.
So Brian Shapiro brought up, of course, LeBron James. Interested in the situation. The Clippers, of course, played last night down at the Staples Center in an NBA game. I understand that this is kind of trivial when we're talking about sports and a disaster like this, but what is the expected impact when it comes to, whether it's UCLA, USC, other, sporting events around town, the LA Kings, for example, as well, too. Has there been any talk about how that could be affected moving forward here for the next few days?
The good thing about, especially the events that happen downtown, is they're not in the immediate area of the fires, and they're not in a big, brushy area. If this was in perhaps, say, Pasadena or Westwood, if UCLA basketball was going on right now, then that's a different story because those are close to hillsides. If not, the fires and the smoke could be a major issue. But, again, we're facing winds here in the next couple of days where the National Weather Service, in their own words, says this could be a rare event and how strong it is. So we don't know exactly how many people are going to be impacted just getting to games. Potentially millions of people could get cut off because they can't get through those critical mountain passes. I'm not going to say they're out of the woods as far as sporting events later on in the week. We're just going to have to see how it goes. But for right now, they're fine.
Any word on how this fire started? I know there'll be an investigation, as there always is, but what is your educated guess as to how these fires, this fire particularly, got started?
They talked about this last night at the news conference, and they said they don't know yet. They believe it was not intentionally set. I will say a couple of years ago in this rough area there, near the Sepulveda Pass, near the 405, there was a fire that was started by a homeless encampment. And that's a big problem because, as you know, they're popping up all over the place in Southern California. And, somebody might be cooking something or smoking a cigarette and discarding a cigarette improperly or what have you. But they've been causing a number of fires. And
That's
I
a
believe
huge
they may
deal.
have caused a small one that burned just last week. So signs right now say it was not intentionally set. It could have very well been maybe somebody off the freeway throwing something flammable out of the car. But that we should hopefully know pretty soon.
Brian, I always appreciate it when you take some time to join us. Thank you for your insight there. Stay safe, and we hope this thing gets taken care of as soon as possible. Obviously, a lot of people affected by this. Brian, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
a lot, Brian.
There you go. Brian Ping, KNX Radio, former employee here at KDWN. All right. So when we come back, we always love having this guy on. It's Minister Stretch, and he is dressed to impress. If you don't believe me, go ahead and stream it on our YouTube page right now. He is definitely dressed to impress. We're going to talk about the homeless issue. We're going to talk about the use of the N-word on a college campus, that and much more. Trump bringing up Jussie Smollett. We'll talk about that as well with Stretch. Coming up next, you're listening to The Vegas Take.